Hey guys, this is Paul with Stellar Effects Modeling Solutions, and I'm very thrilled to be here with you today to give you a new sneak peek at our newest line of products. This is our signature series, which is our flagship series of lighting and effects kits for your modeling solutions. This is the Refit signature series from Stellar Effects for the Polar Lights 1350 Refit Enterprise. And these are our top of the line, full featured boards, remote controls, sound effects, stereo, surround, pretty much any effect we can think of to add in the ship, we've done so. So we hope that you really enjoy this line of our products, and this one happens to be for the ship that for many of us, myself included, is a personal favorite in the Star Trek line of ships, the Refit Enterprise. So without further ado, let's go over what you get with the lighting kit and what's included in the basic kit, as well as some of the things you get with the upgraded kits and that kind of stuff. So what comes in the basic kit is you get, of course, the primary main board, the Refit Signature Series board from Stellar Effects. You get the soundboard and sound card, which is down here on the left, and the sound card's preloaded with all the sound effects you need. You'll get, of course, the remote control. You'll also get any of the specialty LEDs and lights that you need to make your system work, such as the specialty LEDs for the deflector, as well as for the photon torpedoes. They use special bicolor LEDs, which we will talk about in this video here. And you can also choose to purchase additional upgrades, such as the shuttle bay board that you see here. You can also choose to light your shuttle bay with static lighting, and those are also controllable from the remote control, so it kind of depends on what you prefer. If you like the running lights on the landing bay, you can also purchase the upgrade board for that, and also an upgrade for the lighting harness and any LEDs that you would possibly need for this kit as well. You can also purchase an upgrade for lasers, for the phasers. We'll talk about that. The phasers also in a little bit. So that is what is included in the basic kit, plus what's available for the upgrade options. All right. Without further ado, let's jump into some of the basic design features of the board. Now, you also see this little board here. This does not come with the kit. This is something I use to test every kit before it goes out. After I finish building the main board and the sound cards, I test everything before it leaves here. This board was built to help me do that a lot easier, more neatly, and in a more timely fashion. So what you'll see here is all of the interior lights here, the spotlights, exteriors are here, the deflector is here, but I've also got it hooked up on the big deflector so you can see that. You'll get the running lights, the formation and navigation lights. You'll also get the engines, warp RCS thrusters and impulse engines, as well as the shuttle bay. It'll let you know when this interiors and also the running lights turn on, as well as the weapons system and red alert up here. So make sure that you look for those as we go through the demo video. So what's cool about this Refit board, and what we're really excited about, is it's kind of like having three boards in one. So it allows you to choose which movie from the first three movies, the ones that included the Refit, not the 1701A. That one is going to be on another board that comes later, that's exclusive to those particular movies. But this one is all of the Refit Enterprise movies. So when you turn the board on, it will prompt you for which movie mode you would like to choose to operate the board in, and we'll do that in just a moment. And you just simply choose that from the remote control from the buttons on here, which are clearly marked. You can see motion picture, Wrath of Khan, search for Spock. So you get to choose which of these movies you want the ship to behave in. So without further ado, let's go ahead and fire up the board. Let me refocus here, and you'll kind of get a sense of how we choose that. And then we'll break it down into each movie mode and kind of see some of the differences between each one as we go from there. So bear with me as I turn it on. Hopefully it's not too loud.
Welcome to the Enterprise NCC 1701. Please select your desired mode.
So at this point, you'll hear some intro music, and it's prompting you to choose which movie you want. So let's say you wanted the ship to be in motion picture mode, so we'll choose that.
Mode 1 selected. Star Trek, the motion picture.
Then you'll hear the music that lets you know you've chosen that mode. Also, we can choose Wrath of Khan. At this point, we can still choose any of the 3.
Star Trek 2, The Wrath of Khan.
So let's choose mode 3 now.
Mode 3 selected.
And you can hear that each one will let you know that which one you've chosen.
Search.
So let's go back to the motion picture mode.
Mode 1 selected.
Once we're in that mode, the next thing to do is to initialize the board and lock it into that mode. So we'll hit this Starfleet emblem here, and you'll see the interior lights and shuttle bay will come on. And we're locked into the motion picture mode. Now, we still haven't done the startup to really get the board going yet, but at this point, it's locked into that mode as though it's sitting in space dock and awaiting personnel and getting ready to leave for its adventure, okay? So, the next thing to do would be to hit the Starfleet button again, and that'll enter us into the motion picture mode. At this point, nothing works on the remote control except you can toggle the shuttle bay off and on right now, and you can also dim the interiors or make them brighter depending on how you want. You'll see more of this in a little bit, but right now I'm just going to turn them down a little bit. All right, and then also you can control the volume on the board. All right, so we're going to take a pause and then come back. So we'll go through the motion picture mode. So I'll be right back to kind of walk you through some of that and give you an overview of the different modes. So hope you stick around and enjoy. Be right back for the motion picture mode. Sit tight. Okay, so we've zoomed in a little bit better so that you can kind of see what happens here. So we're in the motion picture mode, and I'm about to initialize the startup sequence for you. So before we do that, let me just explain what's going to happen over here on this little board. So besides the interiors, which are already on, and at this point you can control the brightness of the interiors from the remote control if you choose. I'll just turn them down so you can kind of see that fade a little bit. And as you can see, it's kind of fading out there all the way to down, or you can turn it all the way up. But when you get to max, it'll blink to let you know that you're at max. There you go. So that's as high as it goes. It's got several different settings. So when we initialize the startup sequence, the various lights around the ship, you'll see them come on in order, all right? And they'll just go right down the row this way because that's the order from the motion picture. Now it's slightly different for the other movies, and we'll go over that when we get to them. Each one is specific to the movie, and we'll talk about Star Trek 3 when we get to that one. But you'll see the startup sequence go, and then we'll get through the startup sequence, and then I may pause it before the end because it kind of goes on for a while. And then we'll talk about the different functions that happen in this mode, all right? So let's go ahead and start the startup sequence. We'll hit the Starfleet button again. Each startup sequence is somewhere between 3 and 5 minutes, so I'm not going to go maybe all the way into all of them, but you'll get the idea, all right? So most of you will recognize this. This is real similar to our 40th anniversary edition. We just tweaked it a little bit to make it even more accurate.
Yard command signal and clear, sir.
Maneuvering thrusters, Mr. Sir.
Of course, this is timed to the movie.
Hold station.
Rescues at station.
And here goes the lights in sequential order. See if I can turn that down so not quite as washed out. See, that would be each section of the ship coming on in order there. This is on the shuttle bay board. That would be the fantail light. You see the deflector and the navigation lights are right there. And these are the thrusters, which are also on here, but they're really hard to see.
Take us out.
If you noticed, it's hard to tell on this, but when Kirk orders the thrusters to go forward, the thrusters actually ramp up even brighter, all right? So the thrusters are controllable on this board, which is something that we've never done before. So you can control the intensity of the thrusters. They have 5 different settings: off, quarter, half, 3/4, and full, just like the impulse engines do. And when you get to the end of this startup sequence and he orders impulse power, the impulse engines will ramp up as well. I'll try to catch that here at the end, but I'm going to pause it for a minute so we don't have to waste too much time as it goes through this part. And I'll try to catch that part at the end, and then we'll go forward from there. So hang tight with me. We'll be right back. Okay, so we're back, and Scotty's about to say impulse power is ready, and Kirk will order it, and you'll see the impulse engines come on right here behind the RCS thrusters on this test board.
I have 1.5.
You'll see those come right up here. And they ramp up to half just as Kirk orders. Alright. And this is going to wrap up the startup sequence here.
Departure angle on zero. Departure angle.
And then we'll go through some of the basic functions.
You were ahead. You were ahead.
Okay, so I paused it a little bit to just kind of let it run for the end there to save a little more time on this demo. But now we're in TMP mode. The remote control is unlocked, and you can now choose all of the different functions. So let's start with some of the basics, all right? One would be the deflector. So it starts up in standby mode in the motion picture. So at this point, you can now change it to blue if you choose. So I've done that. You get that nice stellar effects crossfade that we designed, all right, to make it look more accurate. All right, let me adjust the contrast again. All right. So there we go. All right. And then of course you can turn it back to standby if you choose. And just like we did with the 40th anniversary kit from Big Easy, now with the Stellar Effects Signature Series kit, if you're in standby mode and you choose to go to warp, you have the deflector will automatically switch to blue active mode, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. Now at this point you can also control the various spotlights on the ship, so you can see I'm turning off and on. That would be all the spotlights on the E-hull. This would be the ones in the saucer. This would be the ones in the nacelles, and I'll just turn all of them off so you can see how that works. There you go. You can also toggle the navigation lights on and off. So right now they're off. So you have full control over the exterior lighting of the ship and the Raytheon lighting, as well as the interior lighting with the dimmers. So you have all kinds of control over how your model is lit from the outside and inside. Okay, you can also choose to turn the shuttle bay back on and off at this point. Whether that's the interiors for you or the shuttle bay board, that's the optional upgrade. It's up to you how you choose to set that up. We'll turn it off for now. I was telling you about the RCS thrusters and the impulse engines. Those are controllable with the buttons on the remote control. So if I want to turn the RCS thrusters down, it's got a pretty cool sound effect that we designed in our sound studio here. And those are shutting down, shutting off. You can see they're totally off now. Now I'm going to turn it back up. I'll just turn them up to half. Okay. Now the impulse engines start at half speed, so I can turn those up. You get a slightly different sound effect again that we designed here to let you know that the impulse engines are working. Now they're up to full. And we'll turn them back down to half. Okay, you can turn them all the way down to off if you choose. All right. Now we're going to go into warp mode. Now I was telling you about the deflector. The impulse engines are also tied into the warp mode. So if they're on at all, and you go to warp mode, not only will the deflector change, but the impulse engines will ramp down from whatever setting they're on before it engages the warp engine. And then when you drop out of warp with another button press, then the impulse engines will automatically come back up. All right. And then you can adjust them then. So let's go to warp mode, and you'll see the deflector automatically turn blue, and then the impulse engines, you'll hear them ramp down, and now we're going to go to warp. If you watch the nacelles, it's going to gradually build and get brighter and brighter. You can also see the little blue here. And and then they just settle into kind of a cruise mode. So they're on, but they're not super bright at this point. We reserve the bright lights for the flash. All right, so we're cruising along in warp. If we want to drop out of warp, we hit the warp button again, and it'll drop us into impulse mode, and you'll see this drop down, and the impulse engines ramp back up. Now, I'll show you something cool after that as well, so let's go ahead and drop out of warp mode. And now the impulse engines have lit back up. Now, if I go to warp mode again, we're going to get a different warp effect sound, all right? The first one was Sulu talking. The longer one is just for the first time you go to warp. It's kind of a cool effect, but afterwards, just to kind of save time, the warp is a lot shorter, so let's see that. So there you go. Now we're in the shorter warp mode. And from here on out until you reset the board and go to a different movie mode, it'll always be the shorter warp mode. So the Sulu thing only happens the first time, and then after that, we get just a standard shorter warp mode. All right. So let's look at some of the other basics. Let's check out the weapon systems and see how that works. So here's the phasers. You'll see them on the board up here in this weapons area. They'll light up. Of course, you can install those anywhere on the ship that you want them. You can use lasers if you choose to upgrade for the lasers, that's fine. But you have two different phaser banks that fire left and right. And then torpedoes are the same. Now, here's something very cool that we've done with this, because people demand accuracy, and torpedoes are one of those really cool features. Now, when you watch the movies in the motion picture, and they're in the wormhole, that's the only time that you see the photon torpedoes in the first movie. When they fire, the tubes light up red. However, the torpedoes themselves fire out blue to destroy the asteroid. And all the other movies, they're just red. The torpedoes are red, the tubes fire up red. But we wanted to kind of make the motion picture a little special because it is the first movie, and it's got all the great starship effects in it. So we're going to go ahead and press the torpedoes. We're in the motion picture mode, so they're going to ramp up red and then fire blue. All right, so here we go. There's the tubes, and the tubes stay lit, and you can see the blue lights next to them firing. Of course, when you build the ship, we're using bicolor LEDs, so they're not going to be separated like that. They'll all be coming out of one LED. But here we go again. You see the blue firing. And these would be the two tubes, and they are lit, both of them, while they fire. So when we look at the other modes, you'll see that those torpedoes will fire red. Okay? So here's the red alert mode. Now when you hit red alert first, it's going to go to yellow alert. And it's just a sound effect. Alright? So nothing's really happening overall other than the sound effect. We hit it again, we're going to go to red alert. And what happens is the interior lights will drop down considerably, and then you'll see a red alert light come up. We include about 15 red LEDs that you can install all over the ship. However, you may choose to put more if you want to get your own red LEDs or use strips. However you want to do this to get this effect, the way you want it, it's up to you. But you'll see the interiors come down, and then the red LED will pulsate with the red alert. So here we go. You see the interiors have dropped down, and you can see the red alert will be pulsing throughout the ship. All right, and then when we drop out of that, the interiors automatically come back up. You can see those ramp up. So the red alert mode is designed so that you can really see that red interior flashing. All right. The interiors are still adjustable when they ramp down. So if you want to bring them back up, you can do that from the remote control. But they do automatically drop down to allow for the red alert. Let's do that one more time. Here's yellow alert. Now red alert. See it drop down, and then we'll drop out of that, and you'll see this come back up, and then you hear the bridge noise. All right. So let's see, what else can we do? All right, so I think at this point we've been over all the basic functions. Now each mode has a different set of functions. For one is marked story, so this would be all of the story from the motion picture. I'm just going to cycle through a few of these, and some of these you'll recognize. So here's the transporter scene. I'm just going through them really quickly. They all go in order. It goes through the movie, pretty much the entire movie. All right. So you get the idea with the story. It'll go right through the movie. Okay, now you can also do that with the music. So here's all the various soundtrack stuff from each movie is also on here. You can just cycle through that if you want to listen to some of the music from the movies. And we also have a button that's called sound effects, and these are just various sound effects. They're chosen at random on the board every time you hit the button. It'll never go in the same order, so sometimes you might accidentally get a couple in a row that are the same sound. Don't worry about it, it's just choosing them at random. So this is, I believe, the Beedra Cloud. Yeah, just a random alert sound. Here's a random sound transporter. See, sometimes you'll get one of them that does 2 or 3 times in a row. You never know what it's going to choose. It chooses a different one every time. So there's several different transporter sounds. There's some warp flybys, some other stuff that are all in that sound effects button. Okay, so those are the various mode-specific things that are on here. All right. Besides the torpedoes, we also have a button that will automatically return you to the ambient bridge sound. So if you push another effect and you just want to go back for that ambient sound, it runs about 10 minutes or so on its own. We also have another unique button. I'm not going to go into this because some of it's kind of a surprise, but it's a destruct button. So when you hit the destruct button, you'll get this sound.
Destruct sequence is activated.
Awaiting final code for 1 minute countdown.
If you know the secret code, which most Star Trek fans should know the code and can figure it out, it is hidden on the remote control with a little number 0 if you can find it. All right, and then also the destruct button. So there's your clue. I'm just going to type it in, and it'll let you know when you hit the right button, because you'll make a sound effect. All right, if you hit an incorrect button, it does nothing. All right, so once you're in destruct mode, just understand that the board is locked out until you put the proper code in. And I'm going to leave it at that. I have one more button to push in, but I'm going to end the motion picture mode at this and give you just a little sneak before I cut it off so that you hear the destruct mode. But I'm going to save the surprise of what happens when you put in the destruct code for your own board. All right, so here's what happens.
Destruct sequence is activated. 9, 8.
All right, so we're going to go on to the Wrath of Khan mode next. All right, sorry, I'm going to make this teaser not work, and we'll see you in a minute. Okay, we're back. We're going to go into the Wrath of Khan mode. So what happens after the destruct sequence is done is the board will reset and start back over as though you just turned it on. At any point during your normal cruise operation mode, you can also hit the Starfleet button and it will shut the board down and prompt you to choose another mode. So if you want to change modes at any time, you can. Just know that you have to go through the whole startup sequence and all of that kind of stuff too. We'll show you that shutdown in just a moment. But if you use the destruct mode to do the shutdown, you're going to get a nice little light display that's a whole lot of fun, and I hope that you guys will enjoy that little Easter egg that we included in the board. So let's go ahead and fire it back up as though we restarted it, and let's go into the Wrath of Khan mode. So let's do that. Turn it back on. That brief little shuttle bay flash, it's part of the program, and it just kind of lets you know the board is on, besides the sound effects. Alright, so we're going to go to Wrath of Khan mode.
Mode 2
And again, we select the mode, then hit this to initialize it. Now it's locked into Wrath of Khan mode. And so what you're going to hear is different music. Alright? And the startup sequence will fire off in a slightly different order from the motion picture. It will match what you see in the Wrath of Khan instead. Right? So instead of the bridge coming on last, it's going to come on first. Alright? So we're going to do that. And of course you get the music and sound effects from Wrath of Khan for this mode. Thrusters. So you still get the nice startup mode. Here's your
Starfleet operations. Enterprise is clear for departure.
Admiral on the bridge.
deflector and your navigation lights. Everything is cruising in Star Trek 2 mode. And I'll try to catch the end of this one too, like I did with the last one, but I'm going to pause it for now. So you'll know
Space
Very well, Mr. Sellers.
You'll get to see
Clear all moorings.
the impulse engines and how they respond when Spock tells Sulu to indulge himself.
Thank
Hang
you.
on, sit tight 1 second.
For
So,
everything, there is a first
real
time
quick,
to count.
when Savick takes
Don't you
over the
agree,
helm
Admiral?
for the training mission and says,
Thrusters, Mr.
turn the
Sulu.
thrusters up, you're going to see the thrusters come up. They're going to get brighter. There we go.
Would you like to tranquilize?
Hit 1/4 impulse power.
And now the impulse engines will come on. And of course they come on at 1/4 power. So you can see that happening. I'm going to pause it again real quick and then come back and talk about the impulse engines at the end. So sit tight, be right with you.
Mr. Sulu,
So we have a little cool feature here.
indulge yourself.
Spock tells Sulu he can indulge himself, and we're going to kick up the impulse engines that go in time with the movie. I don't know if you can see that. It's kind of hard to see from this little board, but the impulse engines just brightened up quite a bit at the end of the sequence here. So now we're going to be in Wrath of Khan mode, and all of the basic functions are pretty much the same, the warp, the phasers. The torpedoes will be different, so we're going to show those, and then we'll go through some of the sound effects and stuff that are unique to this movie. So here's the torpedoes. This time you'll see them ramp up red like before, but they're going to fire red as well. So here we go. So you see a little bit of a difference here, and this matches the Wrath of Khan and Search for Spock and all the other times that we see the torpedoes fire in the movie. So one more time to see the red effect. Alright, and again, all of the other aspects are pretty much the same as far as basic functions like the deflector and the warp modes and all of those kind of things. However, of course, the story is going to be different. Now we're in Wrath of Khan mode, so the story that we get is going to be the Wrath of Khan.
Captain's log.
So you get the idea. There's the training sequence. Some of these start quiet. So I'm going to go into some of the music now, all right? And of course, this will all be from this particular movie. So you get the idea. This is startup music. You get something with dialogue. There we go. Most of these scenes start with music, so you're getting that before you actually get the dialogue. But the dialogue is there. Alright? Oh, right now we're just doing the music. I'm sorry. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is shut down the board and then start it back up and search for Spock, so you get to see that particular aspect. So here's the shutdown. If I just hit the Starfleet button at any time, it's going to do a shutdown. So you hear it shut down, and you'll see all the lights turn off in a little quick sequence, and then it'll prompt you for your next mode. All right, just like a normal startup. So the board is reset.
Enterprise NCC 1701.
Just like we just turned it on,
Please
but I did it from
select
the
your
remote this time.
desired mode.
And so this time I'm going to choose Search for Spock.
Mode 3 selected.
And now I'm going to lock it in, just like the others. And now it's fired up, and we're going to get the Search for Spock. And we get a slightly different music to let us know we're in that mode. All right? Now the startup sequence for Search for Spock is totally different. So I'm going to go over that in just a second. And I'm going to pause this real quick and then come in on that. Okay, so we're about to go into the Search for Spock mode, and of course, we don't really see a particular startup sequence for the ship from that movie. So I had to kind of create something that would be in line with the other movies, but also would match that movie. So what I did is I designed a custom startup for this particular scene in the movie. As you know, in Search for Spock, when they go into the space dock, the Enterprise, when it's in space dock, the deflector for some reason is still on in blue. So we've accounted for that. When you start up the space dock startup for Search for Spock, this will deflector will automatically come up blue instead of the standby from the other two films, and it should be pretty specific to that movie. Now the lights will come on in a different way in this particular startup. We never see it in the movie, so it's going to come on when Kirk orders the guys to steal the ship and get it started. Basically, you'll kind of hear it. All right, so here we go, and we're going to try to get through this scene. This one's particularly long because the Excelsior following them and all of that, so we're going to try to cut and paste so that you get the idea of what actually happens here. So here we go. Here's the startup. So you see the deflector comes up blue. We're in space dock about to steal the Enterprise. All right. The shuttle bay stays on, but it's going to turn off automatically when the startup sequence starts.
All systems automated and ready. A chimpanzee.
Oh, and the bridge light comes on too,
Thank you, Mr. Scannell.
just like it does in the movie.
My friends,
Turn it up a
I
little bit.
can't ask you to go any further. Dr. McCoy and I have heroes. The rest of you do not.
No. We're losing precious time.
What course, please, Admiral? Mr. Scott?
I'd be grateful, Admiral, if you give the word.
Gentlemen. At the wind beyond.
Okay, so now we're going to see the startup. So they start firing up the different parts of the ship, and obviously that's when I seemed like a good time to do the startup stuff.
1/4
So thrusters are up now. The impulse engines come up because he just ordered 1/4 impulse power, and it goes up to 1/4. All right. So we're going to skip ahead a little bit to the end of this sequence after the Excelsior is chasing him out.
Sir, Commander Starfleet on emergency channel.
And we'll see some of the effects at the end. So sit tight, we'll be right back. Okay, so Kirk just ordered full impulse power. They're out of the space doors. The impulse engines have revved up to full.
Dr. Day. Aye.
So he tries to get away with warp drive.
And here at the end, when they order the warp speed, you're going to see it go to warp at the end. And that'll be the end of the startup sequence. And we'll talk about that.
Excelsior closing to 4,000 meters, sir.
Scotty, we'll need everything you have.
Aye, sir. Warp drive standing by.
Alright, we're going to get the warning.
You do this, you'll never sit in the captain's chair again.
And the order for warp, and then these are going to kick up. Alright. So now we have the warp drive, and we're in warp mode when it starts, but it only lasts a couple of seconds, then it's going to drop out of warp, and then we'll go to a regular cruise mode. So here it goes. It does this automatically. And once you're out of warp mode, now we're into normal cruise mode, and everything is unlocked and ready for you. Alright. There's really not a whole lot of difference between the rest of this mode and the Wrath of Khan mode. The torpedoes will still be red. Just like they were in Search for Spock. So everything else on here is pretty much the same except for the story, which we'll go through a couple of the story things here.
Steady.
So you get the idea.
Steady, boys. Keep scanning.
And then the music, of course, will all be from The Search for Spock. Alright, so this gives you a pretty good overview of what all happens on the board. And I'm going to go ahead and shut it down. So this board is available now, and hopefully you guys will really enjoy this system when you get it all set up for your builds.
Welcome to the Enterprise NCC 1701. Please select your desired mode.
And so 3 years of work is finally done and ready to get out to you guys and to enjoy and install in your models. So come see us at www.sfxmodeling.com, all right, and order yours today. And we'll be back soon with some more exciting new products from SFX. So we'll see you guys very soon. Thanks from Stellar Effects Modeling Solutions. Happy modeling. See you next time.